here, but the need to pass this bill boils down to two simple words: jobs and costs. It'll create more jobs by bringing good-paying manufacturing back to America from overseas. It will lower costs by helping fix supply chains, address the chip shortage, and increase innovation. Equally important, the legislation will breathe life back into America's unparalleled innovation machine that's fueled our economy and global leadership for a century. Senators Wyden, Cantwell, Menendez, and Brown are the chairs of the committees with major pieces of bipartisan competition, innovation, and jobs bill. Because of their leadership, we have a strong bill that has bipartisan support. We got 2 more votes last night, if you count the absentees who had voted yes, than we did on original passage. As I've said, Democrats are laser-focused on passing legislation that lowers costs for Americans by fixing supply chain problems that have driven up prices. Last week, Senator Wyden held a hearing in the Finance Committee on lowering the prices for prescription drugs, including insulin. Chairman Cantwell's done amazing work shepherding USICA on the floor. She continues to work to get this bill through the Senate so we can get to conference. And the Commerce Committee today had a markup on bipartisan legislation to reform unfair shipping practices that are clogging up ports and slowing down our supply chain. Today, Chairman Brown had a hearing in the Banking Committee on strengthening supply chains. And 3 other committees held hearings on lowering costs, either held them today or will this week. The Senate Help Committee had a hearing today on something Democrats have pushed for months, cutting the cost of child care and preschool. The Senate Committee on Aging has a hearing tomorrow on home care services to seniors, and EPW is holding a hearing tomorrow on clean energy, combating climate change, and increasing America's energy independence in the 21st century. Americans want Congress to lower prices and speed up supply chains. They want us to compete with China. They want us to create good-paying jobs that drive our economy, our economic growth in every corner of the country. That's exactly what this bipartisan competition and job bills will do. Democrats are working to push legislation that will address the #1 pocketbook issue for Americans. Senator Brown.
Thank you, Leader Schumer. People know why we stopped making things in the United States. Corporate America wanted cheap labor. First, they shut down plants in the Northeast and the Midwest and moved to anti-union, anti-worker states. Then when those wages weren't low enough, they went to Mexico. When those wages weren't low enough, they shut down plants and moved to China. Look at places like my hometown of Mansfield, Ohio, an industrial city of 50,000 people, but halfway between Cleveland and Columbus. Westinghouse, Tappan Stove, Ohio Brass, General Motors. One plant shut down after another after another. Go to any town in Ohio and people can name a similar list. They now measure their local history in shut down plants and lost jobs and workers leaving. Ohio and workers in historic industrial towns felt it first. Now the whole country is feeling it in the form of higher prices, empty store shelves, and months-long wait for products people need. We need to make things here in the United States. It's not going to happen on its own, not when the economy of the last 4 decades was built on corporations hopping the globe to find the cheapest labor possible. It's why we need to pass, and we will pass, this Competition and Jobs Act. It's a dramatic investment in American manufacturing. It's an investment in shop floor innovation, where workers actually innovate and make these companies better on the shop floor. It includes the CHIP Acts to make investments like Intel and Ohio possible and position us to lead the world again in this industry we invented. It expands advanced manufacturing hubs. We're going to create more of these innovation hubs around the country. It's a real coordinated strategy to invest in research and development where we lead the world. China's gotten pretty good at taking our ideas and monetizing them and using them to compete against American business while paying workers less and less and giving them fewer rights. This bill, the Competition and Jobs Act, is a plan to fight back, and we will bury the term Rust Belt once and for all. Senator White.
Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Senator Schumer and Senator Brown, and everyone should know our leader on the China competitiveness bill is Senator Cantwell. I'm going to touch on that legislation in just a quick minute, but I want you to know what the message was from last week's Finance Committee hearing on pharmaceuticals. What the hearing showed is the scandal on pharmaceuticals is what is legal. The price, essentially, for these medicines, and people know it when they're lined up in the pharmacy counter, means that they're getting mugged because there are no limits at all. Big Pharma has the right to set whatever prices it wants and expect Medicare to pay them, and drug companies can game the system, can maintain monopolies, and protect their cash cows. Now, in addition to fighting those escalating pharmaceutical costs, because we saw that last week, the gap between what other countries, what the United States pays is up here, other countries is down here. In addition to fighting those pharmaceutical prices that are escalating, we're also going after tangled supply chains, dependence on Chinese goods, and the Trump trade playbook that raised prices for American consumers. Here's an example. In the 20th century, the automobile was the beating heart of American manufacturing. Congress now realizes that in addition to the importance of the automobile, chips are hugely important, because from the time we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed, computer chips are critical for us. They're critical to the clean energy economy. They're critical to manufacturing. And on the trade front, we have a bipartisan proposal. And Senator Schumer will call on my Pacific Northwest colleagues. But let me just tell you, when we want to hear about how America is going to compete in tough global markets, I think all of us in the Democratic caucus believe Senator Cantwell is the person.
Senator Cantwell with that fine and well-deserved introduction.
Thank you. I want to thank Leader Schumer for his prescient introduction of the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act. We can see today how important supply chains are. Today's chip shortage for consumers is really a national security issue and a cost issue. The cost of used cars have gone up 41% and new cars 12%. A lot of this is due to the semiconductor shortage, and companies are idling trucks on the lots or shipping incomplete cars because of it. According to the telecommunications industry, cost of some of their networking equipment has gone up 12%, and price gougers are selling chips for 100 times their regular price. That will make it harder to roll out broadband across the country. Even worse, it'll make it harder to replace foreign telecommunication and electronics that could be compromised by backdoor or malicious threats. If you're trying to get clean energy, you're also challenged. The price of solar panels has gone up 18%, again, in part due to the chip shortage. And if you're working to protect our national security and critical industries, you're also a target. Counterfeiters are taking advantage of the shortage to sell fake chips that will make us less secure. The best way to solve these problems is to build more chip factories, and industry is doing some of that on its own, but it's not enough. The world needs about 1.2 million chips this year. 1.2 trillion chips this year. Our factories are working overtime to meet that demand. By 2030, they will need 2 trillion chips per year. That's for the car industry, the wireless industry, for agricultural, medical devices, all sorts of products. That means the chip shortage, not that exists just today, but could be elongated into the future if we don't act. That is why we need to go to conference on the United States competition bill, and we need to say that we are ready to send a signal to industry today, not 3 months from today, today. We're ready to send a signal to industry that we need them to build more chips, and we need to build them in the United States of America.
Thank you, Maria. Wait, I have one more little bit of news here. It's on insulin. As many of you know, making insulin more affordable is a top priority for Democrats and President Biden, and we proposed a $35 monthly cap on what patients pay for insulin. There's now a bipartisan effort underway, led by Senator Collins and Senator Shaheen, to pair the $35 cap sponsored by Senator Warnock with policies to drive down, with additional policies to drive down the list price in a more comprehensive way, including having the uninsured protected. And this being bipartisan has a good chance of passing. The effort has my support. Over the next few weeks, those offices will work on getting that bill finalized, and I intend to put that bill on the floor as soon as possible after Easter recess. Yes.
Schumer, Republicans had made a pledge to treat Judge Jackson respectfully in these confirmation hearings. Given what you've seen so far, the lines of questioning we expect from someone like Josh Hawley on how she sentenced child pornographers, do you think that those are fair lines of questioning? Do you think that they're being disrespectful?
Look, some Republicans have treated her respectfully, but not everybody. When they don't have when they can't lay a glove on her, they come up with these outlandish accusations, which the American public just doesn't buy.
There's been a lot of talk about dark money in context of the Supreme Court nomination. You're a co-sponsor of the Disclose Act. Is that going to get a vote on the Senate floor?
We would like to have a vote on the Disclose Act, and will have a vote on the Disclose Act on the Senate floor. The idea that Republicans are now claiming that they're against dark money, even though they have blocked every attempt at legislation to get rid of dark money, says something. Yes.
You mentioned the PNTR bill. Do you have a sense of when that bill might be brought to the floor?
Okay.
And what is the Republicans' holdup on this?
Okay. Well, look, it passed the House overwhelmingly. I think it was 424 to 8. And that meant that Leader McCarthy, who often doesn't side with Speaker Pelosi, supported it and urged his members to vote for it. So this should pass quickly. Republicans in the past have complained we don't do things quickly enough. We should pass this with a strong bipartisan vote this week while the President is at NATO. Now, as you know, Senator Crapo has some concerns about wanting to add the oil provisions to it. Right now, Senators Wyden, Crapo, and Manchin, who has a great deal of doubt about the oil provisions sent to the House, are trying to come up with an agreement. But I hope we can move this quickly this week. Go ahead, Chad.
Thank you. What about the concern about money for COVID? Senator McConnell was here a few minutes ago and seemed to indicate that the only route that he could see was reprogramming some of the money from the $1.9 trillion bill last March.
Well,
is that acceptable, or does it have to be a new standalone?
Look, the bottom line is this is really crucial, and anyone who tries to block this, God forbid we have a second variant and we don't have enough of the therapeutics, enough of the testing, enough of the vaccines, is going to regret it. And so the bottom line is we are trying to get COVID relief. I'm working with Senator Romney and other Republicans in good faith to find some pay-fors that are acceptable to Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate. We hope to get it done. Last one.
Is there a plan to move the permanent
The what?
Is there a plan to move the permanent normal trade?
PNTR.
Yeah, PNTR through the Senate this week with oil sanctions?
Yeah, well, as I said, we want to get PNTR done as quickly as possible. If it's amended or changed, it's going to be delayed about 10 days because the House is not even in session this week. So what as I said, Senators Wyden and Manchin and Crapo are trying to work out some compromise that will be acceptable to bipartisan majorities in the House and in the Senate. We'd like to just get PNTR done right now and move forward. As you know, there's already an oil ban that's in place, but PNTR is a necessity because it says to the evil Putin, we're going to toughen trade sanctions against you even further. We need it, and this week is the most opportune time because the G7 are meeting. Thanks, everybody.